That's the sound of a bull. It's about 3 kilometers away, being called to the farmer, and it's wailing across the fields and calling the rest. That sound, that bull is moving air 3 miles away. The propagation wave is moving through the air, hitting my ear and creating the sound that I hear, which my brain, nicely, thankfully for me, turns into a bully sound. But the sound isn't out there. What is out there is a propagation of a wave through the air, through the medium of air, and the air movement hitting my ear, hitting my nerve, making it twitch, causing a signal to be sent to my brain, and my brain interpreting that sound and projecting the sound back to itself so that it hears something. And Anil Seth, neuroscientist, says it this way, that we live in a hallucination. We are living in a projection of our brains. Because as I walk, the feel of the ground beneath my feet, the wind or the cold on my hand, the sounds, the colours that I see around me, the light, the birds tweeting, all of that is the same as that thing. All of that is an interpretation of a signal by the only senses that I have available to me in my body, being sent to my brain, and my brain interpreting that and projecting it back to itself to create a model of the world. And that's the model of the world I see, this world here. Right? But it's not the world, it's a model of the world. Right? So I have no idea what that world looks like, really. I have a good idea of what my model of the world looks like, because I'm seeing it and feeling it all the time. But that's not the world, that's a model. And that world out there is in a constant state of flux in perceptible and imperceptible ways. Means I've just watched a leaf fall off a tree. That was a perceptible change. But the change could be that this forest behind me over the course of 100 years completely disappears. So it's constantly in flux. Things are changing in it, and at any moment that I say that scenery is like that, well, it's not anymore, because it's already changed in the time that I said that. So everything is impermanent and constantly shifting. So I have no idea what the world looks like out there at all. All I have is a hallucination projected into my brain from my brain, giving me a model. But what I do know is that the world is in constant movement, constant flux, and is never the same from one second to the next. So I couldn't say anything about it anyway. How could I? Because it's in constant change. And now we turn the attention to yourself and think, but I'm a part of that as well. Yeah, you are. And you're in constant change too. I'm getting older. More wrinkles on my face. And so I'm a product of that as well. It's the same model is being used for myself. This avatar of myself is created again by the brain. I have an avatar of me being the person I am, my ego personality. My name is, I am so and so years old, I've done this and this and this in my life, blah 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 blah. All of that is much an illusion or hallucinated as everything else that we've just talked about. What then, if any of this, is real? What is then the fundamental reality of any of this? Or is there one, even? Somebody described, they're using the word God. Okay, whatever. But it was in relation to Hinduism, so they were talking about Brahman as the only thing that would be permanent not disturbed by time. So the only fundamental thing that would be permanent and not disturbed by time, we would call God. So, you know, if there was any basis to any of this, any fundament, and it was the very prime mover that created all of this form, which is in constant change and which is not permanent and adheres to time and is changed by time, then that would be the thing that you consider to be God, is what he's saying. And that would be Brahman, the constantly never changing fundamental thing from which all of this comes and of which all of this is an expression of. Yeah, in the same way that, you know, you might consider your brain to be, your brain avatar to be the fundamental you from which a whole world of dreams arise. You know, all of them with different forms and different feelings and different expressions, but none of them being actually real, all of them being illusory and constantly changing. So it's a thing to consider that when you look at outside at the world, what is it I'm looking at? When you look at its ever-shifting nature, that's also your nature, and anything that applies to that applies to you. And in what sense can you call that real? In what sense can you call that reality? It's your perceived reality. That's fine. I'll buy that. You know, well, it's real to me. Yeah, okay. But the question is, what are you? Just because it's real to you doesn't mean that's not telling you about the reality. It's telling you about your reality. You know, it's something to think about, and maybe gives one a little perspective about what position you're in whatever you call life, and what, if anything, really matters, and how it matters. I'll leave you to come to your own conclusions about that, but who is experiencing this, and what is it you're experiencing?